Very, very strict, and we all needed that.
That was an accepted way of life, and I don't think it hurt us. I think we grew up to be, persons that are respectful of each other and other people, and they don't have that kind of discipline now, and I think that's what's missing.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about it. There were no criminals in the Wheatley House. She prevented all that. Though if they was in there, they weren't doing nothing.
For many, their first experience with the Wheatley House was in the nursery, which first opened in the early 1930s. Its first director was Miss Dorothy Hall.
And they asked me, I was in my second year at the university then, but they asked me if I was interested in going and filling in this vacancy. And I thought, well, that was just a cup of tea for me. I would love to be a teacher of young children. And Miss Brown, Willie Gertrude Brown, was the reason that I got that beautiful experience. And so I was very proud to be named the head teacher of the new nursery school, as they called it then. And we had a big cloakroom in there, and each child had his name on his little door that went to it where he could put his wraps, and there were little hooks in there to hang his clothes and a little place for boots. And the rest of it was, half of it was filled with equipment. There was a piano in there, but we used the piano in the gym a lot because they had more room in there to tumble around and jump around and put a mat down on the floor so they could roll around. And then the equipment was, a lot of the little cots were all stacked up because, of course, we had naps every day. And someone said they thought that's why I lived so long, because I went to sleep every time the kids went to sleep. I took a nap. I did.
My baby, my curly-headed baby.
We would take the children on interesting places. I remember going to Glendale Park for picnics, and then we'd go to Minnehaha Park. And way back in those days, they had some ponies there. And of course, the kids enjoyed some of the pony rides. And we also went to, there was another one, Loring Park. There were ducks there, and they could feed the ducks. So we had wonderful visits with the children.
Miss Hall's teaching was the basis that we used later in the 60s during the poverty program for Head Start. Her teachings and the way she taught to prepare the kids for school was what the basic part of Head Start.
And we also went to the summer camp. The big children were there too, but we took about 6 of our little preschool children. And we stayed, I guess, about 5 days, and that was overnight. And it was quite a struggle, I think, for us who had the responsibility, getting the little teeth brushed and the hairs fixed and the faces washed. But they were thoroughly enjoying every bit of it. And when it was time for parents to visit, not any one of them was ready to go home. They all wanted to stay with their little friends and still have fun at the camp.
We were assigned to do all the work for camp, kind of cleanup crew, to go up and open the camps, clean the cabins out, get the kitchens and things ready for the cooks to come in, insulate the cabins because the insulation was not too good, put hinges on the doors and windows and roofing. So we did a lot of work in the camp. And the transportation was provided by trucks, and they would sit benches in the back of old trucks from Pratt's Express.
No, that was really an experience, a big experience to go to the camps. 'Cause unlike, other kids, like the white kids may have parents that had relatives on farms or whatnot, but none of us, ever did that. So that was a big event in our life. They would teach us, farming skills and try to give us an idea what a farm is like.
What we did in Savage, we planted a whole orchard, and we plant corn and potatoes, raspberries, and we had a brooder house where we would brood chickens. We'd raise the baby chicks, and then when the parents would come out, all summer long, the parents would come out on the weekends. we would have a chicken dinner because you didn't have that in the city. You see the chickens in the store, but they were dead and you'd buy them. They had no feathers on them. And of course, you know, most of the kids, they'd never, unless they went to a circus, they never saw a real horse. Well, you see a lot of horses because the Iceman and the junk people, and they all had horses, but they weren't the kind you rode, you know. It gave you an experience that you needed to have of being dependent on yourself and working with other people, because you were planting the crops, you were raising the chicks, you were cleaning the buildings, and you couldn't do that by yourself.
There was only two places at that time, Wheatley House and Sumner Field. So that's where you always find us. And I mean, there was a bunch of us.
Sumner Field was actually run by Miss Brown, too. All the activity there. Baseball, football, softball, can-can, skating. Oh, they had all kinds of athletes there. Great athletes, way before their time. And then we'd have all the competition, not only in athletics, but in music, choirs, quartets, musical instruments, voices.
I was given the good ear for music. Of course, I could read music, but I could play, you know, most any tunes they would want, and so it came in very handy for the dancing and the little singing. The children in the nursery school had a little rhythm band. They had the tambourines, triangles, little drums, kazoos.
There was always something going on there.
You know, we had cooking lessons and sewing lessons. And then there was a drama class. I remember being in plays, you know, and tap dancing classes. Well, the worst thing in the world would be that you couldn't go to Phyllis Wheatley. That was the worst punishment that you could get. So we were anxious. I mean, once we got home from school, we headed out to Phyllis Wheatley. It was just a pleasure to go there, and that was our life.
To me, it was a whole new world. I learned from Miss Brown and John Thomas and Leo Bohannon and Ray Hatcher, the people who the system denied the chance to rise to their potential. We had total access to that, and they gave us that degree of sophistication that we wouldn't have gotten if they hadn't been there.
They were just committed to doing what they could, I believe, to make life more interesting for us and to teach us. I mean, I don't know what we would have done, what life might have been like without Phyllis Wheatley. So Phyllis Wheatley was our second home. It really was.
At the Wheatley House, it was not only for minorities. Well, I guess everybody was a damn minority at the time. Everybody went there. The kids from with a Russian background, the Scandinavians, the Mexicans, the kids of the Jewish faith, all were there. You know, it wasn't strictly for people of color. And she showed no difference. They were her kids.
She was years ahead of herself because we grew up with mixed children. A lot of the kids that we grew up had white mothers, black fathers, and there was no discrimination against them coming to Phyllis Wheatley and being a part, or their mothers being involved in Phyllis Wheatley activity.
There were many children, many children. Larry Brown and others that were interracial children. But Miss Brown made sure you got along.
She was a champion of the guy who didn't have a fair shake.
All the things that we learned from her, the respect for people, you know.
Such a caring person who really left a great legacy to the whole city, to all of the little children, to all the parents, all of her staff, and everyone she met and knew her.
If you were ever close to or around Mrs. Brown for any length of time, there's no way in the world that she couldn't have an impact on you.
Probably self-esteem that she gave us. She made us all feel like we were somebody.
And it lasts you all your life. Because you can hear, you know, when you're in trouble sometime, you can hear what Miss Brown would tell you, what you should do,
It's been with us all our lives, you know.
or what you shouldn't do.
I thought she was stern with a caring sternness.
So, yes, it lasted with us. We always remembered it.
She would snap her fingers as she's walking in the halls, and you would realize that this lady, if she has any challenges or goals, she's going to realize them.
Greatest influential person that I've ever
And we
met.
here today are proof of that.
And I would be very, very grateful to her.
She was our champion.
Thanks.
You don't play games with people like that. You know, you get ahead.
Thanks a million.
Inspirational.
One of these mornings, it won't be very long. You will look for me, I'll be gone. I'm going to a place where I have nothing to do. But I'll just walk around heaven all day. One of these mornings, it won't be very long. You will look for me, I'll be gone. I'm going to a place where I'll have nothing to do. But I'll just walk around heaven all day.
This old soul of mine is going home to live with God. All my troubles will soon be over. That's when I'll make a brand new start. In the morning, before I rise, I'll shake the dust from my feet. Then I'll wipe my eyes. What a day! I know that will be by and by. Yeah, but I've gotta labor here till my day is done, until the victory has been won. I'll soon be through fighting on this battlefield. That's when I'll lay down my sword and shield. He's gonna say, servant, I was standing by the bedside of a neighbor. across that smiling tide. Don't you know that I asked him if he would do me a favor? Boys, kindly tell him I'll be home some coming day. You may have to take this journey on without me. Boys, it's a debt. Sooner or later we must pay. Don't you know if you see some kind friend who may ask about me, boy,